everyone, welcome. My name is Caitlin Thompson, and I am going to be with you today learning about some poetry. But before we get there, I do want to say I know that this whole transition has been kind of different and it can sometimes be difficult, especially having the feeling of being inside all day. But I do hope that on the days that it's sunny and warm and nice outside, that you're going outside either in your backyard or your front yard and you're enjoying the day. I know that's what I do sometimes when I feel like I've just been inside for so long that I might not um, feel the greatest inside anymore. So I go outside and I work on some homework and or I write in my writer's notebook, which is like my journal, and it just helps with everything going on. I also hope that if you're in classes right now, that your whole transition was pretty smooth to going online. I know for me, I'm also in some classes, and the transition of being face to face to being online was very different. And it was kind of difficult for me to first adjust to everything being online. But after a little bit, it was a much smoother time and transition, and I hope the same for you. And so, with that being said, I hope that you are making the most of your time, and maybe things will start gradually, where we can go back outside again and see our friends. I know we're all missing our friends, and I miss my friends too. And we talk on the phone sometimes, or I see them on Zoom, but it's different, like you're not seeing them face to face, and you probably miss just being around them like I do. So hopefully we will be able to see all of our friends and loved ones again soon. But for now, just make the best of the time that you have by being in your house. Maybe watch like a new movie or something that you wanted to see. But for right now, or read a book. But for right now, we are just going to go over a book of poetry, book of poems, I guess I should say. And I hope that you love poetry right now. But if you don't love poetry, I do hope this video helps with that. I know for me, when I, like, probably just a few years ago, I used to not like poetry. It was something that I thought was kind of confusing, that was also difficult to understand. And so I used to not like poetry that much either. So if you're in the same boat as me, I do hope that this video helps with that, because now I love poetry, and I think it's because of how much I was able to read poetry recently and before. Also, more like my understanding of poetry now, and because I've written my own poetry too. I think writing your own poetry also helps grow that love of poetry. So I do know sometimes that we also don't like poetry because it's just not something that we're used to, especially if we read chapter books a lot or just even picture books. Like it's just not the same sometimes, because poetry has its own structure wise sometimes, its own like style. The poet or the author of the poems has their own unique technique. But I think that's what makes poems so interesting and so fun to read, just because there are like certain poems that do look similar, but there's also poems that are very different from each other. And I think with having different poets and having different perspectives of poets, or that poets can bring to the table, makes poetry even more interesting and enjoyable. So with that being said, we will go ahead and start out today. So I have fallen in love with this book. It's a book of poems, just to let you know. And I love this book. I just got introduced to it in one of my classes this semester. And so it's called Forest Has a Song. And all the poems in here are written by Amy Ludwig Vanderwater, and it's illustrated by Robin Gourley. So Amy Ludwig Vanderwater has written a lot of poems. She's a wonderful poet. She has her own website if you ever want to go and learn more about her or see other poems that she has written, because she has written many, many fantastic poems. And she also has some on there that are like student written poems. So students that she has met or students who have submitted their own. She has other examples on her website as well. So it's she's just a wonderful person, poet, all around. She's great. So anyway, with that being said, we'll go ahead and hop into this book of poems. So Forest has a song. I will go and show you this wonderful spread. It's just beautiful with all the leaves. And so this book is about a forest that invites a girl and her dog. I'll actually show you this lovely illustration. But this book is about a forest that invites a girl and her dog in to see it and see all that it has to offer. So these poems and the forest really wants this girl to observe the forest more and all the forest has to offer. So when I say observe, if you don't know what observe means, it means that you go in and you look even closer or more deeply to what is there. So sometimes we go to a forest or we go on a walk and we're just kind of walking. We're not really looking around, seeing what's around us. So when we observe, say we're in a forest or walking around or on a trail, we might see like flowers and we might go look at them and see like, oh, like from afar, they're just purple flowers. But when we get close, like we can see like maybe speckles of black, speckles of yellow on it. However the flower may look. You might also see some leaves that you didn't realize have a beautiful design on it if you didn't go look closer at it. So there's a lot of different things that we can take away from observing. So this book starts with a poem. It's called Invitation. So the invitation is the forest inviting the girl and her dog in to look more closely at it. So it starts with, well, I'll just give you like a little bit of this poem. But it says, the forest wildly waving rows of friendly trees. So, and then the forest says, I'm here, come visit, please. And so there's a lot more in this poem, but that's just a little snippet of what this poem is. And then as we go through, we can also see that this page didn't show it, but there are also other pages where we see different perspectives. So sometimes we see the animal's perspective, and sometimes we see the girl's perspective. So how she sees things in the forest and how the animals see things in the forest. So one example is, if I wasn't talking about this book, a perspective might be like, right now, my perspective of this is I'm looking into my screen and all I see right now is me and my keyboard and everything. That's my perspective of what I'm seeing right now. But for you, you probably see me, but through your computer. And so you're seeing a different perspective than I am. So that's how this girl is seeing the forest and how other animals are seeing her. So she sees like a dead branch and she explains that. She's a chickadee and she explains what she's talking to the chickadee about. But there's also an April waking, fossil, spiders, dusk. I'm also skipping over some pages, but there's so many pages. I don't mean to skip over them, but there are so many beautiful pages and poems. I was going to try to get this page open for you, but I don't know if I can. Well, there you go. Forest news. And as you can see, as we're going through, the seasons are kind of changing. But this is a good poem to see a different perspective. So this perspective of this poem is about a frog, and the frog is thinking about proposing to another frog. They want to marry another frog. So it says, marry me, please marry me. And then it says the tree frog calls from tree to tree. And so we're seeing their perspective, the frog's perspective in that poem. And then we continue on with spiders. And then we also see a different perspective, if I can say the word, of a baby owl. And so this baby owl is flying for the first time by themselves. And I know whenever we might do something for the first time, it can be kind of scary, right? Especially if we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into. And so for this baby owl, it has never flown before. It had no idea what to expect. And it was very, very nervous, I'm sure of. And so the baby owl says, Mommy, I'm scared to be this high. And then she says, all owls are scared on their first try. And then it just keeps going, and the baby owl eventually does fly, and you can see the baby owl, and then there's the mother. And so I like how these poems give different perspectives. And we see like moss, bone pile, and it's just beautiful. And I love how this book also takes place throughout the seasons. It's not just one day that she goes out there and looks into the forest, but it's multiple days, multiple months, pretty much the whole year. Because now we're getting back into fall, or fall in general, and you see that there's school bus coming. We see some more fall, like squirrels, and then the song. And the song is, it looks like the song is by some geese, and then we are back to winter again, which is what we started this book in. We started this book in winter, and then there's a farewell. So remember, when we started this book, or when we first started looking at this book, we started in winter, and you can kind of tell because she has her scarf and her boots. It looks like it's kind of like transitioning from fall to winter. And we start with an invitation, and then we're ending with a farewell. So we start with a hello and a goodbye. And so I love this poem, or this book of poems, because of just how much it offers. And this book can also be used as a mentor text. And so when I say mentor text, I mean it's one that we can always look back to when we're writing our own poem. And we can always look at one of the poems that Amy wrote in her book and kind of like see how we could maybe also use that same structure of her poem, or what she kind of wrote about, in our own. So, which is something we're going to do today. Hint, hint. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to take a look at this, if it wants to work. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at a poem out of Forest Has a Song. I just called it a nature poem because it makes me think of nature, especially being out in the forest. So the poem that we are going to look at, I'll move me so you can see a little better. I don't know if actually you probably can see it. So the poem that we are going to look at is called Puff by Amy Ludwig Vanderwater. And I also included the picture that goes along with it. And so we will go ahead and read it together. So, Puff, I found one. Puff, it's plump. Puff, come see this mushroom plump. Puff, it's spitting, spore on spore. Puff, I'm squeezing more and more. Puff, smoke scatters, summer air. Puffball babies everywhere. Puff. So it's very, well, actually, I'm going to let you kind of take it in first. So let's think about what we just read, because this poem includes a lot. And so let's take a look. So when you're looking at this poem, what do you notice about the poem? What stands out for you? What catches your interest? Just think about that. You can, if you're by yourself, maybe write it down on a piece of paper. If you're with someone, maybe talk to them. But you can go ahead and pause the video here. And whenever you've discussed it or written it out, just hop back on, just play the video. And so just really think, like when I read this poem, I think of, so what captures your attention maybe? Just what do you think of when you read this poem? Does it make you think of anything else? So go ahead and pause here and come back whenever you're ready, whenever you've fully discussed it or when you've written it down yourself. And we'll go ahead and go to the second question. Okay, so the second question is, what feelings or emotions does this poem awaken? How does the poem make you feel? So your emotional connection, so like your feelings. So when I read this poem, I feel, so do you feel happy, sad? Does it bring up something that you have felt before? So just think about that. And that's something you can also discuss with someone who might be with you right now, or you can go ahead and write it down and come and then, discuss it some and write down your answer if you want to. It's completely up to you. So just think about what feelings or emotions does this poem make you feel. Okay, so let's go on to number 3. So question 3 says, does the poem remind you of anything from your life? So this is your personal connection. So a second ago in the last question we did your emotions, so your feelings. But now we're thinking about a personal connection. So when you read this poem, or when I read this poem, I'm reminded of. So does this poem make you think of a personal experience that you've also had that was kind of like this? Maybe it was with the mushroom, maybe it wasn't. Just think about it. Or, yeah, so yes, just think about it, discuss it, like I said, but make sure you pause, make sure you take time to actually think about these questions. And then we will move on to number 4 when you come back from pausing this one. Okay, so number 4, what do you notice about the way the poet writes? So when I say this, I'm asking, is there short sentences used here? Are there longer sentences used here? Maybe like what kind of, is there punctuation being used? What kind is being used? Just think about the different things that you notice about this poet, how Amy writes this poem compared to maybe other poems that you've seen before, and how other poets that you've read before has written. So go ahead and pause. You know what to do. Discuss, write it down, whatever you want to do. But make sure you pause and just think and read through each line again if you like. Okay, so the next one is, what patterns do you see? So patterns mean, like, is there repetition? Is there rhyming? Think about the different things that you see in this poem. And then you can pause and come back. Okay, and then number 5, are there words that stand out for you, surprise you, words that you don't understand? So sometimes when I read a poem, there might be words that I don't know. And that's okay. Like, it's okay not to know what every single word means, because that means that you get to learn a new word and you get to learn what that word means. And so just take that in right now and see if there are any words on here that maybe you haven't seen before, or you have seen and you might not know what that word means. And maybe we can discuss it later. So just go ahead and think about that, pause, and you can even write down this poem if you want to. And to include that earlier, you can write down this poem and you can underline things if you like, whatever you like to do. And then we'll come back. And so we have one more question left, just to let you know. One more question. Okay, and then the last question is, what pictures do you see in your mind? So is there anything that she, or I should say Amy, the poet, is there anything that she wrote that makes you see it in your mind? So even though there's not a picture here right now, you still see it. Like, you can see what it looks like, you can visualize it, and you just, you can, it's almost like if it was right there. So go ahead and think about that, and you can pause. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm actually going to read I'm going to read over the poem again. And so we'll read it, and then if there's anything you didn't catch the first time, maybe you can catch it this time. So, puff, I found one. Puff, it's plump. Puff, come see this mushroom plump. Puff, it's spitting, spore on spore. Puff, I'm squeezing more and more. Puff, smoke scatters summer air. Puffball babies everywhere. Puff. Okay, so if there's anything that you might have missed the first time, or you're like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? It's okay. Pause the video and you can just write it down. And then whenever you're ready, we'll move on. But yes, just take a second if you like and read back over it yourself again, or write down what you might have missed. All good. And then we'll move on whenever you come back. All right, so I'm gonna go over some things that I recognize from this poem. So I went ahead and highlighted it and I color coded it so it wouldn't be so confusing if there was a lot of different or the same highlighter or the same coloring. So the first thing I saw was onomatopoeia. So if you don't know what onomatopoeia is, it's when you use words that make a sound. So like boom or pow or kapow. I don't know. There's a lot of different ones. So onomatopoeia. So on this one, she says puff. So when I hear puff, I can actually hear the sound. It's not just the word, I can hear everything. So puff. I also see short lines. So she uses short lines. There's not many long lines on this poem, if at all. So I see, like, I found one. It's plump. Pretty much all these sentences are very short, as you can tell. I also see some strong verbs. So spitting and squeezing. Those are really strong verbs, and I can just picture the spitting and the squeezing that's happening. And then one of the words that we might not see a lot, especially if we're not talking about like mushrooms or something, is a spore. So spores are what are usually on the mushroom. So they're kind of like bumpy, or they can be underneath or on top. So spores, they're just not a word that I use every day or I see every day. So that is, I call it a word wizard word. It's a word, words, if I can even get my words out. A word wizard word is just a word that we might not see every day, and that can probably be only used in certain places, or it's just a word that we just might not know, and you just want to learn more about it. I also see some alliteration. So alliteration is when there's words that are back to back that start with that same kind of sound. So smoke scatters summer. So hear that like the S, like smoke scatters summer. And so there's a lot of different S's going on in that one. And I want to say there was one maybe I saw somewhere else, but I'm not sure. That might be it. I don't know. I thought there was one more. Maybe like spitting spore. Like on this one sentence up here, it says it's spitting spore on spore. So spitting spore could also be one. And then also I see some imagery. So I can picture it in my head. So paint pictures in our mind. And that's what I was telling you earlier. If you could just seeing the words makes you see that visual, then you are like that's an imagery. So smoke scatters. So I can just like kind of like see how it scatters and like maybe that smokiness coming. And then puffball babies everywhere. So I can see them like kind of everywhere, you know? You can see the little puffball babies from the mushroom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over a poet's toolbox. So a poet's toolbox, which I've highlighted the ones that we have seen in the poem that we just read. And so we saw word wizard words, alliteration, so the same beginning sound, short lines. So that's like something that a lot of poets probably use and do use within their poems. We don't really see a lot of poems that have long sentences or long lines. Onomatopoeia, so like the words I was telling you about earlier, like boom and pop and crack, they all count in the puff. Strong verbs, and we saw pictures in our minds. But also a poet's toolbox can be like memories, adverbs, so like the ly words. So I'm trying to think of one, like beautifully could be one, wonderfully could be one, and then patience, repetition. So repetition is when there's different sentences or different lines, I guess I should say, in poems that start the same. So like just say if we like, which I guess puff on here could actually become a repetition almost, because it's being said over and over again. It is kind of starting out of our lines, but also a repetition could be like, I like apples. I like bananas. So anything that like starts with the same, or I wonder, just repetition like that. So each line is kind of starting out the same. And so then shape words, or I guess I skipped one, senses. So senses So like seeing, smelling, hearing, feeling. I know I'm forgetting one. Seeing, smelling, feeling. Did I say hearing? I don't know. I just lost count on just 5 of them. So, so senses. So I see, I smell, I hear, I feel. I don't know. I'm forgetting one. I know I'm forgetting one, and I can't think of it. If I think of it, I'll come back. I don't know why I'm forgetting my senses right now. And then shape words. So sometimes authors use their poems and make a shape. So I've seen one where someone wrote about an owl, and they like made their poem actually look like an owl. So that was pretty interesting. I like that one a lot. And I've seen some that go in like spirals. And let's see, what other ones have I seen? I'm looking at my 5 senses right now too, because I know I'm forgetting one. Oh, sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. So I think I was forgetting taste was the one I was forgetting. But also, let's see, I'm trying to think of other shaped ones I've seen. Honestly, you can make one out of like a flower if you wanted to. If you're talking about flowers, you could always make one out of flowers. Emotions, so emotions get put into it. That's why I say if there's an emotional connection that you have. Color words, thinking, and similes. So using like grass. So I thought how fun would it be if I wish that we could write this poem together. I think that'd be great, but right now we can't. However, I will demonstrate like me writing my own poem because I think that having a way of seeing what the poem could look like. Oh, there you go. So I think being able to see kind of how I use Puff as a mentor text could really be helpful. So I'm going to write my own one today. And so the reason I included dandelions is because when I read Puff, I automatically thought about dandelions. I think maybe it was the puff sound or just being outdoors. I just thought about dandelions and how when I was younger, and even now, if I see one, I'll pick it up and make a wish. I'm sure you've heard of that before. You can make a wish blowing a dandelion. So whenever I read this poem, I was like, oh, a dandelion. That's great. And so, but you might have thought about something else. And that's completely okay because we're 2 different poets, right? And that's what I was saying. Every poet has a different perspective. And that's what makes poetry so unique and amazing is because we all bring different things to the table. And so for me, I'm going to write about dandelions. So I had to figure out how I'm going to make that sound. When I blow the dandelion, I had to think about what is that sound that I make when I blow a dandelion. And so when I blow a dandelion, I think about, I do that sound that goes like, which I'm sure it's almost like blowing out a candle too. So I'm going to be honest with you because I don't know how sometimes to spell out this word. It's or spell out this sound. So for right now, since I hear a lot of the like W sound, like I'm going to do like a W, so I'm going to italicize it because it's my sound, and I am using Amy's poem as or the Puff as my mentored poem. So I am going to italicize my word, and I'm going to just spell out WHHH. Now, I don't know if that's how you actually spell it, but it's okay because spelling's not everything all the time, you know? So it's all right. I don't know how to spell a word, but you might know how to spell a word, and that'd be great if you knew how to spell the word, but I don't, and that's okay. So I just did WHHH, like, because that's what I think of when I'm pulling my dandelion, just going and making my wish. And then I'm going to add an exclamation mark because I think when I do blow, I just don't go like and hope for the best. Like I go like I'm putting a lot of emphasis into it. So I'm going to use an exclamation mark. Then I'm going to hop on down to my next sentence. I'm going to take that italicize off. And so, so let's see. So Amy says, I found one in the next one. And I'm trying to think maybe like, what should I say? Because I don't want to say exactly the same thing as her, but like I could use hers as a way of saying something. So I think I might say, look what I found. Because whenever I see a dandelion, I get super excited. You could ask like anyone, if I see a dandelion, I get super excited because I like making a wish on them, and I also just like blowing the little seeds off of them, because that's what they are that are floating away. So I like finding them. So whenever I say one, I'm like, oh, look what I found! Like, it's a dandelion. And although they're like very common, like you see them a lot, it's still like fun to see them because one, I know like it's springtime, which I love spring, and also it's nice to make a wish every now and then. And so look what I found. And I know Amy uses a period in hers, but I think in mine I'm going to use an exclamation mark because I'm very excited when I see a dandelion. So I'm going to go ahead and put an exclamation mark there. All right, and then I'm going to hop down. And so I'm going to go ahead and make that sound again, that sound. So I'm going to italicize it, and then I'm going to put my WHHH with my exclamation mark because, like I said, I'm really blowing, like really just blowing on that dandelion, I guess. So I don't know how else better to say it. So I'm going to go and hop down to my next sentence. And then I'm going to take my italicize off. And so then she says, it's plump. Okay, well, my dandelion's not very plump. It's not very plumpy like a mushroom is, you know. And so I'm going to think about a different word I could use to describe my dandelion. So I think what I'm going to say, I might actually use two words because it's okay. And so I think we use two words to describe my dandelion. So I think I'm going to say it is very, whoops, if I can spell, very, let's see, very, I'm going to say fluffy. Because when I see a dandelion, especially this picture of this dandelion or these dandelions, they look very fluffy, right? Like if I went up and rubbed them, it'd be kind of soft too, but fluffy. And I'm going to say fluffy and light. And when I say light, I don't mean light as like sunlight. I think of light as like weight-wise. So like this book, it's kind of light to be a book. And so it's not super heavy as like say as like a huge chapter book. Like maybe even if I compare it to, I'm trying to think of like a good size like chapter book, maybe like a Harry Potter book. Like if I was to compare this book to like maybe the Harry Potter book, like this book would be lighter. So so I said it is very fluffy and light. So I'm going to just use a period there because I'm just making a statement and I'm not really emphasizing or I would say emphasizing it that much. So I'm just going to use a period there. And then I'm going to hop down and I'm going to italicize and I'm going to do the little sound again. And I'm going to include my exclamation. And then I'm going to take my italicize off because I'm no longer making the sound. And so then let's see. She says, come see this mushroom plump. Come see this mushroom plump. So the plump of a mushroom is what's on top. It's, you know, the dome of a mushroom. And so that's why it's called plump because it's pretty big. It's, you know, usually a thicker, plumpier part of the mushroom. So let's see. If I am thinking about my dandelion, come see this mushroom plump. I do think I might use come see. Because whenever I see a dandelion, I'm always like, ooh, look what I found, like, come see it. You know how when you talk to a friend or something, you're like, oh, come see this. Like, you gotta come see it. You gotta come check it out. So I think I am going to use come see. Come see. I'm going to say come see. What am I having them look at? When I'm not going to say just like come see this dandelion. Like, I mean, I like dandelions, but there's something about a dandelion that maybe I really like and that I really want them to see. So come see, I want to say come see these, and then I'm going to hop down because if you recognize something that she did on hers, it says come see these mushroom plump. Come see this mushroom plump. So I'm going to say come see these. I'm going to go and hop down because I'm about to describe my dandelion. So I'm going to say, come see these dandelion seeds. And since I'm already here, I'm just going to go ahead and fix this and change it to a lowercase d. The whole reason it just makes it capitalized is because it thinks I started a new sentence, which is totally okay. You just always go back and fix it if you want to, since I was already there. Or I could wait till the end and go back and do it after I was done with everything. And so then I'm going to put my italicized back on and make my sound again. If you like to make a sound, you can. It's kind of fun. I love like blowing out dandelions, blowing out candles, so it's a fun sound. I'm going to turn my italicized back off. And so let's see, what's the next word? Or next line, I guess I should say. It's spitting spore on spore. It's spitting spore on spore. So she does use a verb here. It's spitting. So I want to use a verb for my dandelions. So, I think I'm going to say it's growing. It's growing. Why do you think it's growing? It's growing. Cause I like that verb, growing, because when I think of a flower or a plant, I think of growing. So it's growing. I'm going to hop down to my next line and say, I'm going to say it's growing seeds upon seeds. Seeds. Just like she said, spore on spore. I think we see seeds upon seeds when we are looking at a dandelion. And like I said, I'm just going to come back when I'm done at the end, and I'll lowercase everything, just make sure it's the way I want it to be formed. But for right now, I just want to get my words down. So it's growing seeds upon seeds. And so when I say seeds upon seeds, there's just like a ton of seeds on this dandelion. There's so many of them. If you like see right here, if you don't know those are little seeds on the dandelion, you can look right here and see the little seeds that are on the tail, I guess you would say, of what's floating. And so then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use my sound again. And then I'm going to italicize it. And then let's see, what is my next line? So I just did spitting spore on spore. And so I'm squeezing more and more. I'm squeezing more and more. So seeds upon seeds. So I will say this. I don't know how much I am actually rhyming. I did do seeds and seeds. These and seeds, they kind of sound the same, but they don't really quite rhyme because they don't have the same rhyme. But seeds and seeds, but I don't think all mine is going to rhyme just kind of like hers, which is okay because I'm just using her as a mentor, right? And so, let's see. But I did use some rhyme. And I think using some rhyme is good. But seeds and seeds, obviously the same word, so it does rhyme. And let's see. I'm squeezing more and more. So I think I might say, I'm going to say because I'm going to do something with it now. And instead of saying squeezing, I think when I go see a dandelion, I don't squeeze the dandelion, obviously, but I do pull it out of the ground. So I say I'm pulling it up, and I'm going to go ahead and jump down. I'm pulling it up out of the ground. And a period. Because when I go up to a dandelion, I don't really blow it when it's already like still in the ground. I go ahead and pull it up, and then that's when I'm holding on to it, and that's when I am blowing the seeds off of the dandelion. So I pull it out of the ground, and then I blow off the seeds. And so then let's see. Then we are going to jump down again. I'm going to italicize. Well, hold on. Oh yes, I want to make sure I was on the right one. So I'm going to go ahead and italicize my sound again. And then I'm going to take the italicize off. And I'm going to jump on down. And then let's see. So then it says smoke scatters summer air. So I want to use probably some type of alliteration here. So I think what I'm going to say, I actually think, because I've been using seeds a lot, I think I might even do something with seeds here. So I'm going to try to think of maybe a word that also kind of has that same sound, like that sound like seeds. So let's see. I am thinking I am going to write the seeds soar up. Okay, so the seeds soar up. I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second. The seeds soar up. So see the seeds soar. So that's like an alliteration. Seeds soar. And so I'm going to hop on down to my next line because that's kind of what she did. And I want to paint a picture for you. Like I want to have some type of imagery. And so let's see. I want to say the sky, like the seeds soar up into the sky, but maybe I could also include something about the sky. So into the, I'm going to say into the bright blue sky, because now instead of just being a regular sky, it's bright blue. And so you can picture that bright blue sky in your head. So bright blue sky. And then she didn't use the puff here. And so I am not going to use my word there. But you could if you want to, because you're just basing your poem and you're just using her poem as like a mentor text. But I think I'm just going to use mine without it as well. And so I think, let's see, how do I want to, what's my line here that I want to use? She says puffball babies everywhere. But let me think what I want to say. I think I want to say the tiny, because I want you to know, like, they're tiny, they're not huge, right? The little seeds that come out of a flower, they're not huge. They're pretty small, right? You kind of have to zoom in or look very closely, observe, which is one of our words that we talked about earlier. You have to observe the dandelion more. So I would say the tiny, fluffy seeds, which I've been using this word a lot, but I like seeds. I think it's sweet because they are seeds. They're soaring into the sky and they're going to land somewhere, and then that's how they begin to grow again. So the tiny fluffy seeds are all around is what I'm going to say, because they're all around. When you blow them, they don't just like fall straight to the ground. Usually they go for a little bit, and especially if the wind's out, they'll go even further. But they're usually like all around when you blow. Or if you have like a friend that's with you or anyone else, and you blow one together, or like blow dandelions at the same time. Or if you blow by yourself and you take like 3 dandelions and you blow them, there's going to be little seeds everywhere, little dandelion seeds everywhere. So they're going to be all around you. So I would say the tiny fluffy seeds are all around. And I think I want to do an exclamation mark, just like she did, because that's exciting. They're all around. And you can be, oh my goodness, look, they're all around. So the tiny fluffy seeds are all around. And so then I'm going to go ahead and end the same way she did with the sound, right? So I'm going to go in and italicize my sound. And then I'm going to take my italicize off. So now, since my poem is done, this is where I'm going to go back and kind of look to see and make sure everything is the way I want. So I'm going to go in and undercase the letters, or the letters that I wanted to undercase, and just make sure it's just the way I want to, because I'm the poet of this poem, and so I get to choose how I write things. Just like when you're the poet of your poem, you get to choose how you want to write things or write your poem. And so then I need to figure out a title. So I went back up to the top, and I'm going to just bump it down just a little bit. And I'm going to take the italicize off. And so I'm going to think about what I want to call mine. So I could call it like the, just like Amy did with Puff. So if I wanted to call it, I'm going to bold it. And I can say, just like she did. Or say if I didn't want to call it that, I could call it that. Or one title that I like is Blowing Dandelions. Blowing Dandelions. So when I think about like this sound, I think about blowing dandelions because that's what I wrote about, right? And so you could do what you call it however you want. Like I said earlier, it's your poem, so and you're the poet, and so whatever you want to title your poem is what you can title it. So I think I might go ahead and just title mine "Blowing Dandelions," but you could always call it if you wanted to, or if I wanted to. And so anyway, this is my finished poem, so I will read it with you. So blowing dandelions. Look what I found. It is very fluffy and light. Come see these dandelion seeds. It's growing, seeds upon seeds. I'm pulling it up out of the ground. The seeds soar up into the bright blue sky. The tiny fluffy seeds are all around. And so like I said earlier, my poem doesn't maybe look exactly like Puff does, but Puff was my mentor text. So it doesn't have to look exactly like it. If you want more rhyming in your poem that you write, then by all means include more rhyming because that's what makes your poem even more unique. If there's other verbs that you like to include, do it because it's yours. It's what makes you happy as a poet, and that's what brings different perspectives to the table. So always keep that in mind. And then I will read Amy's for you one more time. And so Puff, I found one. Puff, it's plump. Puff, come see this mushroom plump. Puff, it's spitting spore on spore. Puff, I'm squeezing more and more. Puff, smoke scatters summer air. Puffball babies everywhere. Puff. And so it's I just love this poem. I just think it's a really beautifully written poem. And then I'm going to find it for you actually in the book for one more time. So this is it in the book. So it looks like the girl and her brother, I assume, but you never know. It might just be like a friend or something. I'm not quite sure. But you can see the mushroom, like the spores and how the scatters into the summer air. But even if we didn't have that illustration there, just using the words can also make you see it. And like without my picture here, you can still visualize blowing a dandelion in your own way, in your own head, just by what we just did together. So I'm now going to open the invitation for you to also create your own poem. I know it can be a little I'm trying to think of the word. You might be a little nervous at first, especially if this might be like your first poem, or it might not. It really depends. And so I want you to be able to create your own poem, and especially if like you want to. So I have created a Padlet that you can visit, and it takes you here once you click on the link, or once you type in the link in your own web browser. And so here you can add your own poem. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you can double click anywhere, or you can come down here, which is something I always do. I always come down to the bottom and I add, and so then you can title your poem. So for mine, I could say like blowing dandelions. And then I would write my poem. So the sound, and then whatever I wrote next. I think I said, look what I found. So once you write your whole poem, you can just leave it here. And I do have to go through and approve it first. But not like approve it like, oh, how's your spelling, all that, but just for it to get put onto the page. So write whatever you would like to write about, based it off of our poem that we read today together. And I hope that you do contribute your own poem. I think it'd be really awesome to see everyone's different poems and what we all wrote about, and just kind of like seeing the verbs that we use, if there's rhyming, the alliteration that we use, and always think back to our Poet's Toolbox. I'll leave you with this too. Our Poet's Toolbox. So just think about what a poet includes in their poems or could include in their poems. You might not find every single one of these in every single poem you read, just like we didn't find every single one of these in the poem that we read. But it's always nice to keep this kind of in your back pocket, I guess you could say. And so always just kind of refer back to this if you want to, if it was helpful. And then I will just leave you with one more time of Puff. And so, Puff by Amy Ludwig Vanderwater. Puff, I found one. Puff, it's plump. Puff, come see this mushroom plump. Puff, it's spitting spore on spore. Puff, I'm squeezing more and more. Puff, smoke scatters summer air. Puffball babies everywhere. Puff. So I hope that you have enjoyed learning today with me about this poem. I hope that you do include your own poem. You write your own poem and publish it onto the Padlet. Don't forget this is what it looks like. And I do hope to see that. Also, make sure you visit Amy Ludwig Vanderwater's website. And also, if you don't have this book, maybe when you do at school, if your school has it in their library, make sure you check it out. Or if you really liked it, I'm sure there are some probably videos of people reading this book that you could also look at. Or if you really want to get this book, I also recommend that. So there's just a lot that you can do with this. But I have enjoyed our time together today. I'm going to go and stop sharing my screen and come back here with you. So I have enjoyed our time together today, and I hope that you have too. And just like I said earlier in this video, I hope that everything that's going on right now, I hope that you're making the most of it. It's a lot, and it can be difficult, but eventually we will be able to see our friends and loved ones again. And so that's something just to hold on to. But in your downtime, you can always write a poem. You could write whatever you want to write. If you have a journal, you could always start a journal if you don't have a journal or a writer's notebook. Anything you want to do, or you could read a book about poetry or read a book that you just find is fun. There's always so much that you can do. Watch a new movie that you wanted to watch, or go outside, like I said earlier, and just take it all in, take in the sunshine, the warmth. We're in spring, and so the weather is definitely showing that for the most part. And so just go outside and enjoy it, because there's a lot that you can observe by going outside. And also just take the invitation that the forest has, or that nature has, and maybe even write a different poem about something that you observed out in nature. So with that being said, I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and that you did gain something from this video, from watching this video. And thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you do write the poem. And so with that being said, bye. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.